Hey folks, it's your pal Mike Shea from slyflourish.com and twitter.com/slyflourish, here with another episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy DM Prep. This is a weekly show done live on Twitch at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sundays, in which I go through steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master while preparing for my Sunday D&D game. In this case, I am running the game Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Ghosts of Saltmarsh. This show is brought to you by the fine backers of Sly Flourish on Patreon at patreon.com/slyflourish. For those patrons on Patreon, thanks to them, we are able to keep this show going and keep the bandwidth high and keep the hardware up to code and pay for the website hosting, and all of the other administrative functions of Sly Flourish are covered by the fine folks at Patreon. If you would like to support this show or the website, please feel free to back me on Patreon, and I appreciate your support. If you are here live in chat, please say hello, and we can chat about all things D&D. Whatever you want to chat about, we can chat about. Gondolar is here. Hello, Gondolar. Welcome back. And what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about the crazy stuff that happened in my downtime session. And we can talk about downtime sessions in general. We had a big one last week, and a lot of interesting things happened in that downtime session. Downtime sessions are tricky, so we'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about getting prepared for Danger at Dunwater, the second adventure in Ghosts of Saltmarsh, and what we had to do for there. Eric B. Turner says, hello, first time, and I'm co-sponsoring a new high school D&D club, here to learn. Excellent. Well done, and thank you for bringing D&D to the young folks of our world. There was a period of time, I'm really happy to say this, and I don't think it gets enough credit. I don't think we realize how much this hobby is changing, even when we expect it. Oh, my mom is here. Hello, Mom. Everybody say hello to my mom. There was a time in 3.5, in D&D 3.5, so this would have been in the mid-2000s and the early 2010s, when we were pretty sure that the hobby, because of video games, and particularly because of MMOs, that the hobby, the tabletop role-playing game hobby, was going to die off. And, there was this common fear, and everybody thought that the trend line showed that, that the D&D was a nostalgic game played by late baby boomers, early Gen Xers, and that when they died off, that was going to be the end of the game. And even they would just kind of stick to their old first edition Dungeon Master's Guide that they've had for 40 years and not really play. And there was a lot of talk about this, like in the blogosphere. There was a lot of chatter about how, what can we do to get D&D back? And then 4th edition was the design of 4th edition. I'm kind of making this up. I don't know if this is actually true, but it feels like the design of 4th edition was intended to kind of bring that back, bring in the people that enjoyed video games and the high mechanics and everything. That's where 4th edition got its reputation as a MMO-like edition of D&D. And what's really interesting is that conversation has almost completely gone away. It has gone away. I don't hear of it. And one of the reasons why is that, young folks seem to like them some D&D. And I think the largest impact that it had was turning D&D into a spectator sport on people watching streaming D&D games. Now, I consider, and I know this is an arguable topic, but generally the people on the other side are a bunch of jerks, that if you are watching D&D games, you're part of the D&D community. You don't have to play D&D to be part of the D&D community. This is kind of an arguable point, but I feel pretty strongly about it. And the ability, if you think about just the access to D&D, being able to pop open Twitch on your phone and watch a 4-hour D&D game if you're by yourself and you don't really have anything to do and you don't have any friends around that are ready to play, that makes this game so much more accessible. So the idea that we have these really high production values, the relics and rarities, is that what it's called? The Relics and Rarities show, which is a really highly produced D&D game. Of course, Critical Role, the 800-pound gorilla of D&D streaming games, which has, God, I don't know how many hours, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of D&D played by professional actors, with crazy, awesome storylines and everything like that. That what are the cats up to? That really makes this game crazy accessible. And it means that the hobby overall, and I have a gauge and a measure that I use, which is I watch the D&D hashtag on Twitter. And it basically, the game population, the number of tweets that include the D&D hashtag and this already accounts for people that are not using it in ways that are not related to D&D. The D&D hashtag has some topic collisions in it, but it's really rare. I've actually done some sampling on it to detect whether or not that was a big deal, and it was like 1% or something, 5%. It was really low, and that 5% got lower because the topic that D&D used for D&D has gotten way higher. And the end result is that I think the D&D hashtag use on Twitter has doubled every 2 years, or basically every 18 months to 2 years. It's almost like Moore's Law. So we have tons of people that are involved in D&D now that we didn't have before. And then you look at WotC, and WotC has released some statistics, and they say that D&D is more popular now than it has ever been at any point in its existence. And that's pretty crazy. So I love it. And anyway, this is a long way to thank Eric here, who's a first-time viewer of the show, for running a high school D&D club, because that is how, that's how D&D expands, is beyond being able to watch the show. And the idea that a kid can go to a D&D club and play D&D and then be like, I want to learn more about this. And they go on YouTube, and there's like a million D&D videos on YouTube of people either talking about it, like Matt Colville, or people playing it, like Matt Mercer, that, can get people really involved in this hobby. There's way more material in this hobby than any one life can absorb, which is fantastic. There was some other point I had about that, but I don't remember what it was. So let's talk about Ghosts of Saltmarsh. So in last week's game, they had completed. So we had fewer people. I think we had four players, which was fine. 4 is actually my ideal number of players. Yeah, Mad Fishmonger says, I'm so happy to have new people to the game. Yeah, me too. It's really cool. And we're learning a lot. And I think like the new people are bringing a lot to the game. And I think I wrote an article about this. And I think we old timers who've been playing D&D forever have as much to learn from new people that are playing as they do from us, if not more, because they're bringing a lot going on. So eyes open, as they say in Stephen King's Gunslinger, eyes open, mouth shut, see much, say little. Although I don't follow that because I run like an hour-long show where I do nothing but talk. But I try to listen. I pay a lot of attention to what's going on. Yeah, so last week I knew we were going to have a downtime session, and I think this was the second downtime session in Ghosts of Saltmarsh. I am running way more downtime sessions in this campaign than I have ever run in any previous D&D adventure, and I find that very interesting. I think the adventure lends itself to that because it's kind of a hub-spoke structure for this adventure, where you have 7 adventures in Ghosts of Saltmarsh that were all written over the past 38 years. And they were, I think, Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh, Chapter 1 or Chapter 2, the first adventure. Danger at Dunwater, the one we'll be talking about today, and The Final Enemy are 3 adventures that are all in a series. They are all part of a single storyline. But the other 4 adventures in Ghosts of Saltmarsh are all independent. They fit a particular level range, and they are all seafaring based, but they all kind of have their own adventure hook. So what that means is between every adventure, and sometimes in between scenes in an adventure, the characters can return to Saltmarsh. And whenever they do, like the pace of this adventure is not like, oh my God, if you don't keep moving, all of the resurrected people are going to die. Or, oh my God, if you don't keep moving, Tiamat's going to get resurrected. Or the giants are going to take over the Sword Coast. Although even that one, they tried not to make that real profound. Or real time sensitive. So this is not a time sensitive game. There's lots of time for the council to deliberate their next action. And that can take a week. So it means that the characters can return to Saltmarsh, report on what they found. The council says, okay, we're going to take this into consideration, and we'll let you know. And then the characters have like a week in Saltmarsh, and they can reconnect with their previous contacts. They can investigate other things. They can commission the importing of magic items. They can get involved in other little small adventures on the side, kind of explore things or talk to people that they hadn't really explored, or talk to people. It's really interesting. And to be perfectly honest, as though I've been lying the whole rest of this time, they're hard to run. Downtime sessions are hard to run, and they don't always go well. And I think it's because the players have to bring a lot to it as well. And the variables all have to sort of align correctly for a downtime session to really click and work well. Like interesting things need to happen. But on the other side, it's like, well, having a downtime session where everybody's sort of relaxing, doing their thing, and not the most exciting thing that's happened in the world, is still not a terrible session. Even then, a good one is still like a moderately well run downtime session. It's like a 7 out of 10, right? It's going to be fun. Yeah, time-sensitive adventures indeed have less space for downtime activities. That is definitely true. And it's nice to play adventures that are more open-ended, where you don't have that time requirement. Like, oh my God, the world's ending. I think, I have a whole theory about sort of the post 9/11 amount of urgency and strong beginnings that we see in video games and movies. The whole sort of frantic, what do they call it? The in media res things exploding. Like you look at the beginning of Die Hard. Die Hard 3, right? Where during the initial credits, a bank blows up, or building blows up. So I think that in our fantasy world, sometimes it's okay to be quiet a little bit. I do believe in strong starts, but a strong start doesn't necessarily need to be something exploding. A strong start could be there's an event going on, like hey, there's a party, right? Like big party going on. Anyway, so I ran a downtime session last week. Let me talk a little bit about what happened in that downtime session, because a lot of stuff happened. So I'll highlight the big events, because I don't know if I can remember all the small stuff. I do remember that they went to Captain Zendros of the she's the quartermaster of Ayuz, and she had returned with a new. Let me pull up my notes. She had returned with a new. Sort of noble of Doraka named Bormos Riddleheart, and he revealed that he had some magic items. He had a silver raven, and he had a cloak of protection, and he had some potions and stuff. And he offered them at decent prices and relatively cheap. And they did end up spending some money and buying some magic items. So of course, what they don't know is they're all cursed, and mild curse, and mostly it's spy stuff. Captain Zendros, and there's back in Doraka, far away, there are sages who are, keeping an eye on what the people who are wearing these things are doing, and they write reports about what they're doing, and they send those reports up, and when those kind of get interesting, then they might send more agents out to do this. So there's like a great big IU's-based spy network that's going on that's now tied to these items that Bormos Riddleheart has given the characters, including the Silver Raven, who doesn't really work for the character. It does what the characters say, but it's really sending messages back to IU's. So that's a fun little hook. That is a secret and clue. This is a big secret and clue. Boy, I hope you don't give this up right away. So that's a big one. So they did that. Then the other thing they did is they reported on the Sea Ghost. They got a crew for the Sea Ghost. They negotiated the price. They have a new Lauren Stordstorm is their new bosun. It was the bosun that was the original. Lauren Stordstorm was the Storm Sword. Storm Sword was the bosun of the Sea Ghost before, under the previous captain, and after winning said, hey, I'm just a mercenary, I'll take money, I'll take your money, I'll take her money, I'll take anybody's money, and I'll be your bosun. So I think they gave her 10 gold a day, and they gave her like a bunch of gold up front, like 50 gold or 100 gold up front, for her to kind of get the crew together and get the Sea Ghost faring. And she thinks, like, these guys look rich. I'm pretty sure, even though I could run off with 100 gold, I'm going to stick around because I bet there's a lot more money where that's coming from. So that's her, she's very, money focused. So that happened. And then two great big events happened. Huge things occurred in this downtime session that have huge impact to the game. The first one is they used, what's his name? Gellin Primewater had a particular brand of drink that he liked called Amber Rose. It was a very expensive, hard to import, tariffed wine that could only be smuggled in. And they found some bottles of this with some smugglers that they saved at the beginning of the last session. And they said, we're going to use this and try to figure out if Gellin Primewater is actually the person who tried to assassinate Manistrad Copperlocks with poisoned bottle of this particular wine. So they set up this situation. They talked to Anders Solmar about it. And they set up this situation where they put out bottles of Amber Rose, and they were going to have Manistrad Copperlocks and Gellin Primewater both drink it, and they both did. And the party didn't plan on Manistrad drinking the wine, but she did anyway. And the truth is, and this is a secret, that it was poisoned, and it was poisoned by none other than Scarron Wavechaser, the uncle, right? And so they were sure that Gellin Primewater actually tried to assassinate Manistrad Copperlocks, and then Gellin drank his own wine and died. And Manistrad coughed but survived. Because she has drank it before. She's a dwarf. Her immunity was stronger, and she was happy to watch Gellin Primewater die to his own drink. And generally, this is not much of a secret. So the story is that that Gellin either drank it accidentally because he's an idiot and he thought he was better than he is, or he thought he got away with something, or he drank it on purpose because it's better than being executed, being found guilty and executed. But either way, Gellin is dead. And that's a big deal because now one of the council members is out of the picture. So the question is, who becomes the new council member? And the person that was put forward was Nolan Doghoof. Who's a friend of the characters. Nolan is a friend of Bleth's. The question is, does that go in the hands of the Scarlet Brotherhood or not? The other thing we're going to throw in here, I think an interesting turn of event, is that who is the guy? Elendar Fireborn has a daughter, a sergeant to the King's Army, who's actually a secret agent of the Scarlet Brotherhood. So he is owned by the Brotherhood already, and messages will start to come to him through her. Boy, lots of secrets in this one. So, yeah. So this whole thing, what's going on? Okay, so let me back up. So what exactly is going on here? So what's going on here is there are two factions in Saltmarsh: the Loyalists and the Traditionalists. The Loyalists are loyal to the King of the North, who's King Scotty of the Kyoland armies. And the Traditionalists are independent and prefer that Saltmarsh stays independent. They also had ties to smuggling and stuff like that in the past, but they're kind of largely past that. The council had two members that were Loyalists, who is Elendar and the dwarf, and Copperlocks, and two Traditionalists, Ida Oland and Gellin Primewater. And then one neutral party that was Anders Solmar. Anders... So it used to be an even split on the council, but now Gellin Primewater, who was a Traditionalist, is dead. And so that would seem to push matters. And so the reality is there's a third faction in the city, a secret faction called the Scarlet Brotherhood. The Scarlet Brotherhood wants to ensure that the council is loyal to their purposes. Like Scaran Wavechaser is the local head of the Scarlet Brotherhood here. They run in very small secret cells and they wear masks when they communicate, so no one knows who anyone else is. They have just secret codes that they work with, and their job is to make Saltmarsh a fertile ground for Scarlet Brotherhood quests, for Scarlet Brotherhood desires. And to do that, they need to own the council. So the whole goal of Scaran Wavechaser is to own the council. And he started by assassinating Gellin Primewater. I don't even know if he knew that Gellin was going to die, but it certainly works in their favor. And then they have to start owning the other ones. So the question is, if there's an election and somebody wins, how does that person fall into the hands of the Scarlet Brotherhood or not? Is a big question. Like who the members are that fall into the Scarlet Brotherhood is a big question. Anyway, so that's a big thing that's going on. That's the big event. Is Gellin Primewater is dead. I think one question is, so is there an election? I think the election is going to take place while this is going on, and we'll see who wins. Maybe we'll check it randomly, to figure out who wins. But, can the Scarlet Brotherhood stuff the ballot box to get their person on there, or do they put somebody in place that they know they can work over? Is a big question. Anyway, so that happened. Then the other thing that happened is after receiving dreams from Zolek, who appeared to be this very emaciated, almost childlike being trapped in a cell in a cave complex beneath Saltmarsh, Bleth decided that she needed to go back there and talk to this being. So she went back down there, and there were 30 ghouls standing at attention at this rift with this bridge. And Zolek is on the other side, lying on the ground in this pool of, decayed liquids, saying, please just pick me up and carry me across the seal. And if you do that, I can help you with a great many things. And they're like, I don't know. And they're looking at each other like, is this a good idea? This seems like a bad idea. And she's like, he can help us. And she's real driven by if you can tell me about the black whale, about the Black Death, I'll help you. And he's like, I know lots of things. And so she went over and she picked him up and she said, I don't like all these ghouls. And before you build armies of undead. And I know, they know who he is, right? They're like, Zolek was this powerful necromancer and vampire and ruled armies of undead, and how do we know you're not going to do that again? He's like, I did that and it didn't work. Look where it led. I want different things these days, and what I don't want is to live here dying in this cell, over the next 10,000 years. And she's like, okay. So she takes him across, and he comes across, and he's like, thank you. And then he says, I need to feed. You can either tell me who to feed on, or I'm going to go do it myself. And one of the other characters, Mac, said, you can feed off me. And he did, and he nearly killed Mac, but he broke free and then kind of roared this bestial roar and then ran out. And the characters are like, what's that going to do? And so the reality is they just let free a very old, powerful vampire named Zolek from his prison beneath Saltmarsh. And now Zolek is out there. So it's going to take some time. Zolek was in a bad state. He was a vampire that was essentially trapped in a cell without being able to eat for 1,000 years, 500 years, some very long period of time. So he was pretty weakened. And he's vulnerable because he doesn't really have a coffin. He doesn't really have all the things he needs. So he's going to start putting all that together. I don't think he's going to ask the characters for all this stuff. He doesn't trust the characters too much, but he does trust to old, what's his name? Old Ivan. And old Ivan is going to become his, what's the guy's name in Dracula? The guy who helps Dracula around and went crazy. He was the one that was originally getting him real estate and then ended up in the asylum. Renfeld, right? His Renfeld? I think it's Renfeld. So his Renfeld is old Ivan, and he's going to get a coffin, and then he's going to start feeding. And I think it's going to be pretty random. I think he's not crazy. There'll probably be one bad murder that occurs in the town. One random bad murder because he's so hungry, right? He's not thinking straight, and he just raced across, and the first person he saw, he killed and drained and then fled. And now he's smarter, and he's like, okay, now I'm going to pick people that aren't going to get a lot of attention. So I think that the strong start will be, this is a good, I like this, right? The strong start is, a body. So let's make a random NPC. Let's go over here because he attacked randomly. Let's go to Don John. Does Don John have good random NPC generator? Fantasy. Magic items. Dungeon magic shop. There's towns. I need like a full random. If anybody in chat has a favorite random NPC generator, I'm looking for one that has like race and gender and class and alignment and like little bits of story. Let's look at the random campaign. Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. Here we go. Random generator, and I'm sure NPCs. Okay. Metha. Metha is dead. Oh, good for her. See, perfect. A female halfling mercenary, evil. Metha has golden hair, narrow green eyes, wears chainmail, and wields a halberd. Metha has an animal companion, a copper fire drake named Faster. She's dead. So I think that is pretty cool. A mercenary. Let's go for traditionalist, loyalist. Let's see. I need a D8. Okay, so on a 1, 2, or 3, she was traditionalist. On a 4, 5, 6, she was loyalist. And on a 7, she was Scarlet Brotherhood. That'll make for some fun. And I rolled a 6. So she is, what did I say, loyalist? She was a loyalist. So there's a big cry. They find a dead halfling mercenary. She's been eviscerated and exsanguinated, dead in the street. And they're like, what in the hell is going on here? And the characters know, like, oh man, this is Zolek. And Zolek's like, I'm sorry. I don't know about the animal companion. Fire Drake is going crazy. Is there a Fire Drake? There are. Let's look at Drakes. Red Guard Drake is her pet. Ooh, it's pretty tough too. It's a good challenge rating. And maybe this happened outside of town. I dig this. Yeah, so a Red Guard Drake outside of town. Awesome. Love it when strong starts come together. Love it when randomness helps. Isn't this cool? Like randomness, man. Randomness can really come up with some interesting stories. There's Carson, by the way, if you're looking for a cat. I know my mom always likes it when the cats show up. Oh, kitty. Not helpful. So that's a good, strong start. Then I think scene-wise, like probably nobody's going to care too much about the dead mercenary. There'll be an investigation of like what happened, but they're like, most of the assumption will be that the guard drake went crazy and killed her master. But really, it was Zolek. That works well. So the Zolek storyline is going to be awesome, and it throws this whole new wrench in it, which is they have a vampire ally, and the vampire be like, "Look, I can, I think what's going to happen is that Zolek, and I don't want to think too far ahead because things change, but it'd be really cool if Zolek bought Gellin Primewater's." Like, he has money, right? He knows where it is. He can go fly and get some money, and he's going to go buy Gellin Primewater's estate. And then he is going to kind of sit there and recuperate and sort of build out spies and charm people. And his thing is like he can help the party root out what's going on. And, part of you is like, oh, it's going to blow the mystery. But who cares? Like, how cool is it that a vampire can help you blow your mystery? Like, how cool is it that the vampire is like, you can't bring your cloak and your raven in here because they're actually owned by someone else. You don't own those. And I don't want anybody scrying on our conversation, right? Like, that's cool. So, mysteries, I think, get overdone. This is sort of the Cormac McCarthy way of handling mysteries, which is sometimes just have the mystery get exposed and have the whole story take a hard left turn. And boy, nothing takes a hard left turn like a vampire coming to town. So great fun. I'm really excited for this. So scene wise, is we have the murder, we have the council. They So the main thing is they got to get started with the next adventure. Like, it's so much fun to just run around and do crazy stuff in Saltmarsh, but the reality is there are adventures to go on too. And the council's like, look, I know about the murder and we know about Gellin Primewater. While we're figuring this out, though, we can't wait about, we're worried about this risk of the lizard folk. We need you to go there and find out the intentions of the lizard folk. We're going to bring in some other secrets here. Lots of secrets. I think we got 11 secrets already. Sometimes the secrets just pour out. Boy, in some games you've seen, if you've been watching this show, you'll see me and I'm like, oh, secrets. I'm like, I have to think real hard. Sometimes they just flow out. And that's how secrets work, right? Like, sometimes your story has so many little threads, it's really interesting to tie all those threads together in secrets. Other times, it can be tough to come up with 10 secrets. So I think... cat scratching something. So... I think 11 secrets are good, and I don't think I'm planning on doing very more. What are you doing, kitty? Zolek, vampire. Yeah. So looking through my... Oh, we didn't... Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the characters. I failed in the first step one, right? Step one is who are the characters. I'm pretty sure that Dave is still out, but I think everybody else is in today. So we have Mac, played by Jerry, who is a Goliath Grave Cleric, smuggler from Monmerg, worshipper of Weejas, works for Krebshanker, knows Anders Solmar from the place, served in the Lady's Grace, and has a skull tattoo on his head. We have Bleth, human paladin of Procan, who a ink black whale ate her parents. I think they figured out that it's actually a ink black kraken. She threw herself off the drop as Skylar caught her and was raised by Farron at the Temple of Procan. Also works on the dockward with Anders Solmar. Anders' father was killed in the same boat that killed Bleth's parents. Skylar is an Aarakocra Storm Cleric, knows Welgar Brandhand, saved Bleth, and brought Dave and Corvel and Welgar when they came ashore, has a cloak of protection. He is the Storm Cleric. Corvel, a human fighter, fisher who got knocked in the head during a bad fishing expedition. Saved by Dave and healed by Welgar, proselytizes the god Zygag, who came to him when he was knocked in the head. He and Dave both served Ida Oland, and Ida pays Dave a stipend to take care of Corval. And then the last character today is Thurvin Pat, a half-sea elf storm sorcerer, served in the same pirate ship as Mac, saved Mac's life after the Lady's Grace, the ship which they served, was sunk. Was the whale the culprit? Is a quite outstanding question. Met Farron the Druid and burying his captain along with Mac. So those are the characters. I don't know that any of the backgrounds of them... I mean, their backgrounds all kind of tie into this in various ways. It's going to have a big effect in Salvage Operation, which is Adventure 3. Because that one involves finding a pirate ship. So I want to make sure to tie in their threads, specifically the Lady's Grace, with the Emperor of the Waves, which is the ship that comes back. And maybe Lady's Grace and Emperor of the Waves were two ships that were together and both got lost in the same storm. Lady's Grace sunk. Or we could just turn Emperor of the Waves into Lady's Grace and that it's still there. That might be an interesting way to go. Certainly that has a high tie to the rest of the storyline. There's lots of interesting things here. I should go take a look at chat. So what have you been talking about in chat? I'm sorry. I've been ranting. Yeah, people talking about games. Remember Kevin Smith saying all those tween vampires from the movies some years ago are just priming the pump for new comic book and RPGers. Yeah, I think you're right. Like, nerd culture is huge. So, and the other thing about getting connected, in both good and bad ways, getting connected to groups on the internet have helped kind of people reinforce their good and or bad habits and good and or bad hobbies. And in some cases, in our ways, that the people getting together with their other nerdy friends have really helped. I have two nieces, and both of them, one of them plays D&D, and is certainly into this. The other one is certainly like around that culture a lot. So, you know, there's a sample size of two. Don't like games that have time pressure. Yeah, time-sensitive games, I think they have their place, but sometimes they don't. We're starting Red-Handed Doom, so you better Red-Handed Doom. The fun thing about Downtime Adventures is the NPCs are really like creating interesting people to react. Yeah, there's a lot of good ones. As you see, my NPC list in these notes is huge. I've got so many NPCs in Saltmarsh, and it's fun. He's not your problem. Hey, he's not your problem. Hello. It says to the stocks. Yeah, Downtime can be some of the most fun if guided and played right. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. I think I've got an article I'm writing on it. That probably in the next week or so. That will probably be the week after next. So tomorrow, a new article is coming out on Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh, and I think the next article will be about downtime sessions. Renfeld, yeah, I love making a random NPC generator. Thank you for that. What about the poor little fire drake? The fire drake is actually going to be a guard drake. Drake is all upset and confused and sad. Yeah, and then probably crazy, and they're probably going to kill it. And it'll probably be sad. Maybe they'll not kill it. That would be good. We'll see. Great way to add excitement and tension to the party to have an NPC vampire that's an ally and a potential threat. Right. Yeah, because he's out there killing people, right? Like they got a murderer out there that they let free. But it's a murderer that can help them. You know, so how does that work? Could be really cool. If you've ever played The Sims Medieval, there's a Whale Ate My Parents background, which is hilarious. Yeah, so the Whale Ate My Parents is her background. Somebody took that and made a D&D background from it, and that was the D&D background that she picked, was Whale Ate My Parents. Salvage Operation and Isle of the Abbey have been my favorite to run so far from... really, that's interesting. I mean, I really enjoyed the last two. I am just started. Wednesday, I'm going to be running session 1 of Salvage Operation. So that's cool. Getting those connected to the Scarlet Brotherhood quest line has been hard. I have chronic pain and can't get out of the house a lot, so being able to game online has been saving my sanity. I think that's true for a lot of people. I think both sometimes through life circumstances that make it just really hard for people, and also sometimes people just are more comfortable at home or time commitments. I have two friends. I was thinking about it this morning. I have two friends. They just had 2 babies. And they are huge gamers. And I know that they love Critical Role. So I know that even while they're taking care of their 2 babies, and I imagine they don't have a lot of time for gaming. We haven't really heard much from them in the gaming front since they had the babies. I imagine that it works really well for them to be able to watch a lot of D&D and talk about a lot of D&D and read a lot about D&D, even if they can't always play D&D. Because getting together with 5-6 people on, for 3-4 hours at a time is hard to schedule. Like, this is the notorious meme. D&D meme is getting people together to play D&D is really hard. I am very, very fortunate, very lucky that I've managed to keep some semblance. Keep a solid group that people have kind of rotated in and out for I think for about 12 years. And that's been awesome, right? Since 3rd edition, the tail end of 3.5, and then all through 4th, and now through 5th so far. And then in 5th, for about another 4 or 5 years, I've had this Sunday game. So I've got 2 ongoing games that have been going on for years. And that's just, I'm so lucky to be able to do that. I'm so lucky that my life allows me to do that, and that the people around me allow me to do that. So it works really well. But it's not forever. It's not easy. And the ability to be able to go watch D&D games online when you can't play D&D is great. The other thing, and so we didn't talk about this yet, which is the D&D. Let's pull it up here. I have it on D&D Beyond Adventures, Dragon of Icespire Peak. Dragon of Icespire Peak is a whoops. Man, look at that art, huh? Dragon of Icespire Peak is the new starter set adventure. It is from the D&D Essentials Kit, which is available now everywhere globally. And it includes a 1-6 adventure that's playable with 2 people. So if you can't get a full group, or you can only get 2 or 3 players, or even just you and a significant other, or you and a good friend, can play D&D with just 2 of you. And it's very theater of the mindy. There's not a lot of tactical stuff, so it plays very well. You could play on Skype, or Skype. You could play on Discord, or you could play on other venues online, as well as playing in real life. So it seems like a very flexible way to play D&D. Just lacks solo play, so there isn't a way for you to sort of run through the adventure on your own. He's Not Your Problem says, my son is running Dragon of Icespire Peak as a DM. It's his first time DMing, and he loves it. I'm glad to hear that. I really want to run it. I have not run it yet, but I really want to. So the neat thing about this whole, the Essentials Kit is fantastic in a few ways. It is fantastic. Like the way the adventure is written is really nice. Like, it's short and specific. We'll just go to one location here, Axholm. Very focused on what it is, when they get here, what's going on there, features, some flavor text, nice, beautiful maps. And then you can see that, like, the area locations, they don't have flavor text, but in many cases, an area location has 2 sentences, right? And you could probably read these aloud, right? Here's the privy. Hey, look, everybody poops. So the really thin descriptions, which I think are interesting as a beginner adventure, right? Because they're not overdoing it. They're really very, very tight. Who edited this, by the way? I want to see. Where's the credits? Who was the editor? Scott Fitzgerald Gray. Awesome. Guess what? He's also editing Grendel, so I'm very glad. So I need to talk to him about that. I got to remind myself to talk to Scott Gray about some of the editing, some of the considerations of the design of, and his thoughts about him on Icespire Peak, because I want to bring that. Anyway, so a cool thing is, if you go and you buy, if you have a local game shop, please go support your local game shop. If you do not, or for other reasons, you can only get it from Amazon. You can pick it up from Amazon for $15.70. Let's see, I'll make a little link. This link does give me a little cut, so if you happen to pick it up from this link, I'll get a little taste. I'll put that link in chat. When you buy the physical box, you get a whole bunch of stuff. Where's the stuff? You get maps and cards and books and NPC cards, and all kinds of stuff. You get the little DM screen. You get a full set of dice, and you get 2 books, one that lets you make characters and one that lets you run the adventure. You can also, and it comes with a map of the region and a map of Phandelver. You also get a code in there that lets you get half off the player's handbook from D&D Beyond, and also lets you unlock the adventure of the Essentials Kit for free, Dragon of Icespire Peak, on D&D Beyond. Now, not only that, I know I'm totally overselling this, but I'm really, I don't, other than that little cut, I don't get any money for this. Not only that, but it includes, where is it here? It includes, when you unlock your Dragon of Icespire Peak game, you get 3 other adventures: Stormlord's Wrath, Sleeping Dragon's Wake, and Divine Contention. These were written by James Intercasso, Will Doyle, and Sean Merwin, 3 very accomplished adventure writers that have written for many, many D&D things before, and are edited and edited by Ashley Warren, and the story manager of it was Wizards of the Coast and Chris Perkins and company, and they let's just take a look. We'll grab Stormlord's Wrath here, and let's pick one of the adventures. Take a look at the maps. Yeah, so nice published, beautiful maps. That looks like a Mike Schley map. Did Mike Schley do the maps in these? Let's look at credits here. Cartographers. No, Stacey Allen and Will Doyle. Wow. So you get those adventures for free. So $15 gets you a 1 to 13 campaign, plus dice, DM screen, all kinds of handout stuff. A lot of material. It's an amazing value. And it's a wonderful on-ramp for D&D. I think, if you're getting somebody involved in D&D, handing them a copy of this box. I love the starter set. I thought the starter set is awesome. I still think the starter set is awesome. This is definitely a better starter set, and it's not much more. I think the starter is probably $5 more. Look at that. It's freaking $3 in difference in price. And for $3, it's way more stuff. So it's definitely, I love the starter set, and I'm not sad that I have the starter set. I got multiple copies of the starter set around here. But boy, the Essentials Kit is awesome. So anyway, I've pitched the hell out of the Essentials Kit. But I'm really fascinated by it. I'm really fascinated by the design. I don't know, pretty amazing stuff. How did I get onto that? I guess it was about ease of play, and that for me that's a good way. Yeah, the dice are fantastic. I don't think I've really used them much. I'll tell you what the other one, not to just sit here and surf products, but the new D&D dice for Avernus, which I guess come out in a couple weeks, have been my friend Enrique did a big review of these, and he said it's pretty amazing. He said, this is like having a box set for Avernus, a miniature box set. And it's pretty cool. I just don't need more dice. But I love the monster cards that you can kind of hand out, and another map, and it's got a nice dice box. It seems to have a lot of nice stuff in it. It's a little pricey. It's about $25 MSRP, I think. It's a little bit high for dice. But yeah, 4d6 and 2d20. Yeah, and that comes in the Essentials Kit. So that's kind of crazy too. That it's you can buy this for $25, or you can buy the Essentials Kit, and the Essentials Kit has the dice as well, and all this other stuff, and it's cheaper by a significant amount. So that's kind of weird, huh? But who knows? It might be that box, maybe that the dice rolling box. But I have a Wormwood rolling box that I use. Anyway, so I got 10 minutes. Hang on. How's my game going? Let's take a look. So we reviewed the characters. Let's jump over to this real quick. Let's go back to our Danger at Dunwater. Little lizard. Look at the crazy lizard attacking the port. By the way, I don't want to. Oh, I haven't even talked about the adventure. So we looked at our characters. We have a nice strong start. I have a bunch of scenes, and the journey to Dunwater. We have a bunch of secrets and clues. I have more NPCs than I can shake a stick at. Monsters. So we have the red guard drake. My stupid menu thing came up. We have a red guard drake, and then lizard folks. Treasure, they already just got a whole bunch of treasure, so I'm not going to worry about treasure and magic items at this point. So note-wise, I'm okay. And I'm also okay because I've run Dunwater before, so now I know, Danger at Dunwater before. But let me talk about Danger at Dunwater, and let me talk about specifically the really tricky bit of this adventure. So the premise of Danger at Dunwater is really straightforward, which is the council is aware that smugglers have been smuggling high-quality weapons to a bunch of nearby lizard folk at a promontory on Dunwater River, which is like a half day by boat away. And they're worried that the lizard folk are arming to attack Saltmarsh. The reality is the lizard folk are defending themselves or going to wage an attack against a nearby group of Sahuagin, sea devils. And the sea devils took over the original lizard folk lair and sent them here. And the lizard folk are rearming to go against us. So they are not a threat to Saltmarsh. And in fact, the Sahuagin are a threat to Saltmarsh. So the lizard folk and the people of Saltmarsh might ally together to go against the Sahuagin if it plays out right. And that is how you want it to play out. The trick with this adventure, and I think they talk about it here, I forget. There's a section in this adventure that talks about the fact that the adventure, you don't want the adventure to be ruined by making it too clear that the lizard folk aren't a threat. By the way, this adventure was written back in 1982 originally. So, it's somewhere in here. It says, that you don't want the characters, and therefore the players to find out too early that the lizard folk are not threats to Saltmarsh. I'm way more worried that it will turn into a blood festival, than that it will get spoiled too early that the lizard folk aren't enemies. I mean, I love this picture because if this happens in your adventure, it's already gone the wrong way. Like if you get to the point where your half-orc paladin with the warhammer is about to smash a lizard folk in the face and another lizard folk is about to nail them from behind, it's already gone the wrong way. Right, because it's going to be really hard to come back from, if a fight starts to happen, it's really hard to bring that fight back. So anyway, the way that I ran this before, and it worked really well, is that you have a situation going on where the lizard folk are kind of getting ready to figure out, they're working on alliances with other races, including a couple that don't work out real well. They specifically did not go to humans and sea elves because other groups that they're working with aren't working out, and and they're on high alert. Zelterus says, "Is there ever really a wrong way, though?" I would argue there is with this adventure. I think the wrong way is the characters go in assuming the lizard folk are a threat, and they sneak up and they backstab them and they get into a big fight, and a bunch of lizard folk attack the characters, and the characters fight a bunch of lizard folk, and half of the lizard folk are killed and the characters are getting their asses kicked and no one's happy. And then the lizard folk go, "Why the hell do you attack us? We don't even hate you guys." And they're like, "Oh, whoops." And there's like 30 dead lizard folk. And they're like, "Yeah, they didn't have to die. Like that was a mistake." That to me feels like a wrong way. And players could feel, bad if they're like, "Well, you didn't tell us that they were good, or you didn't, So you really, I think in the way I ran it and the way I recommend running it is that you really reinforce the idea that the fact that the lizard folk are aggressive is weird. That is a secret that you really want to come out. And that, you know, you really don't like I think the council should say, like, a direct assault is not what we're asking for. We want you to figure out what's going on with them. What is their plot? What is their plan? And go in there. And in my experience, if the players find out very early that the lizard folk are not hostile, that's still okay. The adventure will go very quickly. You don't travel through it like, boy, the map on this adventure is enormous. And pull this thing up. You don't have to, it's like 50 rooms, I think. It's a huge place. This is such a good example of how old school adventures used to just, you know, look at that map, right? 50 rooms. Yeah, 51, 52, right? 52 rooms in this. Guess what? You don't have to go through all of them. You know, this isn't a dungeon crawl. So yeah, it filled out all of these rooms, but really it's like, you know, it's probably nice to have it, but you don't need it. And the reality is, in my ideal way of running this adventure, the characters go in, they get to choose how they explore the promontory. You know, the lizard folk will not attack them on sight. The lizard folk will be on their guard and defend themselves, but the lizard folk will instead question them and ask them where they came from and who they came from, and they'll alert other people. And they will not attack on sight. And generally speaking, unless your group are really a bunch of true murder hobos, they're not going to attack unless they're attacked. So now the guard drakes in area 22 down here, they might attack. And I think the lizard folk like those guard drakes, but they are like, you know, big dumb pets. So if they die, they're like, we don't like that you killed our pets, but, you know, we understand that went bad. So that might be okay. And even a couple of dead lizard folk might be okay. And the lizard folk could have a thing like, well, they died defending us. That's as good a way as you can go as any. We only have a life expectancy of like 30 years anyway. So yeah, right. And right, my group left the lizard folk alone on the boat too. So the fact that the lizard folk on the Sea Ghost, when they take over the Sea Ghost, are not hostile either is a pretty good clue that these lizard folk aren't hostile either. So I'm pretty sure my groups already know. Both my Wednesday group already went through this whole adventure. My Sunday group that is going to go through it today, they are pretty confident. I bet you they already know that it's not, that this isn't hostile. And instead, you steer this adventure towards the idea that Queen Othacant, who's queen of the lizard folk, the adventure part is, she says, we want to work with you guys, but tradition requires that you go on 2 quests for us. One quest is Thousand Teeth, the crocodile. That there's a giant crocodile out there. It's eating our own people. We worship crocodiles, so we can't kill it, but you can. And if you can defeat Thousand Teeth, you know, you will be doing us a service. And we won't hate you even though you killed a god. And the other quest is, there are these bullywugs. They're pains in the asses. Bye, Mom. Thank you for coming. They're bullywugs. They're pains in the asses. And they stole an artifact of ours. They stole a helm. They stole a helm from us, and we want it back. It's a holy artifact. Go and recover this helm, and you will be connected to us. You will be, you know, you'll be brought together with us. We will ally with you. And then at the same time, there's these Colanaths, which are these real nasty, Colanths, which are these like sea hobgoblins, and these guys are nasty, and the relationship with them is not going well. So it's possible that the characters will have to deal with these guys, and that could be fun. And then lastly, one really fun subplot that I'm putting in, that I'm going to write about in the article I read on this, is that there are some Sahuagin that have been captured and are here, and there's a sea elf ambassador that's here, and the sea elf ambassador is actually a Malenti. A Malenti is a Sahuagin that looks like a sea elf. The Malenti is written about in the description. So the idea that there's a Malenti assassin in the lizard folk lair who's trying to kill Queen Colanth, and sets the Sahuagin free could be a fun side plot that goes on here too. So there's lots of ways to run this adventure that doesn't include murdering a bunch of lizard folk. And the real risk is that the characters will go in with blood on their minds and do it. So I'm lucky that I've already run this adventure before, so I'm used to how that's going to play out. But if you are considering running this adventure, I would, if you think about a gauge between friendly to hostile, keep the gauge closer to friendly and make sure to be dropping lots of secrets to the characters that the lizard folk, they don't know what the motive of the lizard folk really is, and they need to figure that out before they start murdering them. Because if they go in murdering them, I think it can go in a direction that's hard to get out of and could be less fun for the adventure itself. So it is 11 o'clock. It is time for me to get all my crap together and get ready for my game. I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank all of you for a wonderful conversation in the Twitch chat today. Thank you for putting up with my sales pitch for the D&D Essentials Kit, but it is something that's really cool. And next week, we will talk about how the first session of Danger at Dunwater went. And hopefully... hopefully vampires haven't completely taken over the town. So we will see. Thank you all for coming, and have a great week, and get out there and either play some D&D or watch some D&D or think about some D&D or read some D&D. Have a great week. Thank you very much.